It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Won't you be mine? Won't you be mine? From 1968 to 2001, Fred Rogers began every episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood by singing those words. Today, I will tell you why Fred Rogers was and still is a wonderful role model for parents and early childhood teachers. I will tell you about his ability to connect with his young audience, his teaching of children through his television program, and his ability to remain a voice of calm and assurance during challenging times. Fred Rogers was very sick as a young child and spent a lot of time at home. Therefore, he really did have to become creative and imaginative to keep himself occupied. On the third floor of his home, he had a toy room, and in that room, he constructed a puppet theater. When he was feeling well enough, he would invite friends over and put on puppet shows for them. Years later, during Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he introduced us to some wonderful puppets. Daniel Tiger was my personal favorite. He was shy and timid, very quiet-like and frightened. In fact, Fred Rogers' friends would often say that Daniel Tiger reminded them of Fred Rogers himself as a young child. He also learned how to play piano at a very young age, and that served him very well in later years, as he did attend Rollins College here in Florida to study music. When he created Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he composed all of the music for the show. He was raised to be very humble, and he had a very calm and quiet nature about him. His parents were quite wealthy, but really raised him to be very compassionate, kind, and modest. They did many acts of service and were very philanthropic as a family, and therefore he became that way as well. When he was first introduced to television, he didn't like what he saw. He watched a TV show for children, but found it to be very aggressive and very loud. Years later, when he created Mr. Rogers, he very purposefully created a very calm and soothing atmosphere for children. He taught children very many things during his television program. He did episodes on divorce and even death. In the episode on death, it was one of the fish from his aquarium that died. He talked to us about it, then brought the pet fish outside and buried him in the yard. While he was doing that, he shared a story from his own childhood about losing a beloved pet. He did teach us other things as well. I learned how crayons were made of by watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. His ability to remain a voice of calm and assurance during challenging times went on throughout his entire TV production time. June 5th, 1968, Senator Robert Kennedy was assassinated on live TV. 2 days later, Mr. Rogers produced a TV show and aired it. He felt it was very important to talk to a grieving nation and address children and their fears. In the episode, Daniel Tiger was talking to Lady Aberline, another character who was human, and asked her what the word assassination meant. She explained it to him. He said he didn't want to talk about it, and she assured him that when he was ready, she would be there. Fred Rogers finished production, and his final episode aired in August of 2001. But then, September 11th, 2001, a national tragedy happened with the bombing of the World Trade Center and the plane crashes. Mr. Rogers was in post-production, and his team encouraged him to create some public service announcements. He did do that, but he spoke directly to the adults. He told the adults to speak to their children, to talk to them, to ask questions, to see where they were, and to encourage them to ask whatever they needed to ask. He really helped a nation that was grieving at the time. Today I told you about how Fred Rogers was and still is a wonderful role model to parents and early childhood teachers. I told you about his ability to connect with young children, his teaching of young children through his television program, and his ability to remain a voice of calm and assurance during challenging times. I have so many wonderful memories of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but one of the things I liked best was that at the end of every show, he would look directly into the camera and he would say, "And remember, I like you just the way you are." And I really did believe him.